All right, welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Business Owners Mastermind Group Call. My name is John Pyron, your business doctor and the host. I'm a co-host, Alan Reeves here. Alan, say hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Boom. So, so the topic today, this is the first Thursday of December, and we talk about sales. So the second week is marketing, the third week is technology and operations, and then the fourth week is we do accounting, business, and finance, and all the other stuff that goes along with business. But this month is a 5 Thursday month. So it's perfect timing too, because the last Thursday of this month, we're going to do an actual workshop, webinar, whatever you want to call it, on how to create your one-page strategic plan for 2022, how to go into 2022 having the best year ever. And I mean, that's kind of cliche this time of year. It's like go into the next year with your best year ever. Everybody and their grandmother is going to be doing a webinar on how to have your best year ever in 2022, right? So it's just commonplace. What's going to make this one completely different is it's going to be live open Q&A. I'm going to literally go through step by step exactly how you structure your one-page plan in 2022 and how you can rock it. And so you're going to be able to ask questions and et cetera. And I'm not going to sell nothing on that webinar. So it's going to be, it's kind of, I guess I could sell something on the webinar, but I'm just not going to do it because that's our rule here is we don't sell or pitch anything here. So I just want to bring great content to you as a business owner, and you can access on YouTube channel. You can contact myself, Alan Reeves, anytime you want. But this is my favorite topic. That's why I have to stand, because this is one of those topics where 31 years ago, let's see, we're 2021. So yeah, 31 years ago, October 28th, 1990, I started my first business. This guy wanted me to go out and talk to perfect strangers about my business. I thought the guy was on drugs. I'm like, I don't do that. I mean, I can just share, right? I don't have to go out and meet perfect strangers because I just got out of Hill Institute of Technology. I was a technician at the time, and I'm like, I hated sales. I thought salespeople were the scum of the earth. I kid you not. I thought they were sleazy, slick, fast-talking people. The moment their mouth started moving, they were lying. That was just my attitude about salespeople. And so it wasn't a surprise 3.5, 4 years later that my business failed miserably because guess what it lacked? Sales. And so I had gotten stuck at a certain point, and I could not go beyond where I was at because I literally did not know how to sell. And he kept saying, hey, you know what? Go and contact this person. Go and contact this person. Go and contact this person. I'm like, no. If they're interested in my deal, they'll come to me. Right? So a lot of you are going to listen to this recording on the podcast channel or on the YouTube channel or get it in some other fashion. But if that's you, right? If you're like, you know what? If they were really interested, they would call me back. Meaning you gave them a quote, you told them about your deal, you asked them to buy, they said, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. And you said, oh, okay, and you let them think about it. And then a week later or a couple of days later, you placed a phone call, and they sent your butt right to voicemail. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And you left a voicemail. Hey, Joe, this is John. You and I spoke the other day. You said you were interested. You just needed to think about it, and I'm just calling up to see, are you ready to go? And give me a call back, and here's my phone number, and you leave that voicemail. And here we are a week later, and they still haven't returned your call, and you're like, well, I mean, if you're 45% of the salespeople out there, that's your last official follow-up right there. And that's an actual statistic, right? And your excuse is, well, if they were interested, they would call me back. That's kind of your deal, right? And so the next, 19% of you are going to actually send an email or send a text or do another follow-up call to say, hey, Joe, this is John again, and I left you a message last week, and we spoke 2 weeks ago, and you were interested, and you wanted to think about it, and I just want to say, hey, you ready to go now? What can I do to help you? And you hang up the phone, and you update your CRM because your boss told you that's what you had to do, or actually in this case, I'm talking to a business owner, so you update your CRM, and you're like, okay, and you're done. And that's it. That's the last time you're ever going to follow up on it. Because after all, you followed up twice. And you don't want to be a pest, right? You don't want to be pushy, okay? This is the dialogue that goes through our mind. I know that was a dialogue that went through my mind. It's like, well, I mean, they said they were interested, and I gave them the deal, and they said they wanted to think about it and look it over, and I gave them the time, and they must not be interested because I left them 2 messages, and they didn't return my call, okay? So a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, and that's about the next percentage, right? And then a very smaller percentage, maybe about 8%, maybe 10 is going to make that third follow-up call, okay? And that's where it's like, man, I've got it now. I sat down and I thought about this. They didn't return my 2 calls. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send them an email first, or I'm going to send them a text message, and then I'm going to call them tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do, okay? Because that's probably going to work. So you make the follow-up call, and you leave a message, and they know it's you calling, and so they send you the voicemail, and you leave that voicemail, and you never hear back from them, and that is the last official follow-up call, your third follow-up. And that's where 85% of the people stop. And that's why most people don't succeed in sales, whether you're doing sales as a business owner or whether you're doing sales as an employee. That is the statistic. It's been around for years. It's updated every year. Just go on to Google. You can type statistic is, and it's going to be right around that. Where the magic comes is between the 5th and 12th follow-up is where the majority of the sales happen. Let me repeat that. Between the 5th and 12th follow-up, that's where the majority of the sales happen. That's where the majority of the sales magic happens. Tell you a couple stories, real true stories. I went to work. Well, I didn't go to work. I did a contract for a buddy of mine that was a sales trainer. And I was representing his brand, and I was going around giving these free sales training talks. And the model was I go in and do a free sales training talk. I do intro, outcomes, chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3, call to action. And then I pitch his sales training program at the end of my talk. And he taught me, here's how you set the appointment. Here's how you run the deal. Here's how you promote it. Here's how you show up. Here's how you do the talk, etc. So I started doing a bunch of these. And I had a lot of fun. And I was really, really good at it. And I'm not bragging. I love to do public speaking. And so I'm sitting there at a Christmas party in December of 2012. So that would have been, 9 years ago? And my buddy Sean Curry says, you should get a hold of my boss, Mike Arciero. He's the sales manager for Comstock Mortgage in Roseville. We got 45 salespeople. They meet every week. They're always looking for a great speaker just like you. I'm like, oh, my God, this is like manna from heaven, man. I'm like, okay. So I pick up the phone, and I call Mike, and I say, hey, Mike, John Pyron, great speaker. I'd love to come out and do a free sales training for you and your team. And he said, send me some information. So I sent him some information. I mean, this is a shoehorn. This is a referral. And so I call up Mike, and I say, hey, so I send him all the stuff. I call up Mike, voicemail. Say, Mike, John Pyron, want to come out and do a free talk with you. I sent you some information. You said you were interested. My calendar's open next Tuesday and the following Tuesday because I know you meet at that time. Give me a call back. Crickets. Okay? Send him a text message. Crickets. Send him an email. Crickets. I followed up with that guy. That was like it was January 2013, 49 times. Okay. And it wasn't until, let's see, I spoke to that team March 4th, 2014. So it wasn't until the end of February did I sit back and I go, the dude said he was interested, you know? The dude said he wanted me to come in and speak. He asked me to send some information. And here's my first tip on sales. The most important thing, the single most important thing in all of sales, if you can master this, you will make a lot of money. And that is, how do you follow up with somebody? When do you stop following up with somebody? And the answer is this. It's like my old mentor, Eric, taught me. You follow up until they buy or die. Meaning they either buy because they said they were interested, or they tell you, screw off, don't call me, lose my number. I will literally call the cops on you if you call me again. Now, they're never going to say that, but I'm just exaggerating here, right? And so he never said that. And so I'm like, well, he was in the rotation, and I just kept following up. And I finally said, okay, why is he not – I mean, I do a great job. I've done, 35 talks since I've talked to him. And you know what? There's no video online that has anything about me being a speaker. He might think I'm a buffoon. He may get embarrassed if I come in and talk. So I remember, you'll get a kick out of this, Alan. I remember I didn't realize that you can actually go buy a tripod and set your webcam on a tripod. I didn't know that. I'm from Texas. I'm kind of a redneck type kind of guy. And so I take this bookcase and I set it on the ground, and I'm like, okay. So I set my laptop on there because I needed to get it to where, I'm 5'7", and I needed to get this high, and it still was like this low. And I'm like, okay. So I started stacking books, right, to get the laptop up to where it was funny as heck, man. I didn't know how to do a video. And so I set it up there, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know how to edit a video. So now I have an even bigger problem. And so after 12 takes, I do this. If you go to my YouTube channel, the very first two videos are a result of Mike Arciero. I owe him a lot of money because he's made me millions of dollars since then. And so I put it up there, and I finally get it to where I don't have to edit it because I have no idea how to edit it. And I create this video. I go, hey, Mike, it's John. Your sales team is, sees you speak every week, and you're sharing the same thing over and over again. Here's a sales tip you can sell with your people. Share with your people that'll have a great result. Hope it helps. If you still want me to come in and speak to your team, I'd love to come in and speak to your team. I said, okay, well, he's not going to click on the link. So I put it up to YouTube because YouTube's kind of safe, and I sent him an email. Now, I'm going to land the plane here in a minute because it's going to make you a lot of money once I share this principle with you. 45 minutes later, I get an email from the guy. When can you come in and speak? I go in, deliver a talk. 7 people buy. I walk out of there with about a $4,000 check for talking for 45 minutes. Now, the most valuable principle I learned about sales at that point was this. I followed up till they buy or die, but I stepped back and I said, okay, what is my prospect interested in? What do they want? I took the focus off of John Pyron and I put it on the client, and I go, what do they want? What is going to help them make a decision? It didn't matter if it motivated me. What mattered is it motivated him. And ever since then, and I had been in sales and business for 23 years at the time, and that was one of the most valuable things I learned. Now, how did I learn that? Well, glad you asked. This is a thing called the Sales Mountain. Now, I need to give credit where credit is due. This is something that was shared with me in 2012 by my old mentor, Eric Lawful. Okay? And he had taken studied sales for many, many years and mastered the art of sales. The next Tony Robbins guy. And he had been able to digest all the sales greats. And he came up finally with a very simple concept, because most people are terrified and scared to death of sales. So he created this thing called the Sales Mountain, which beautifully explains sales to the common person, the common business owner. And you customize this for your business, but basically a basic sales process is going to be, you got to generate leads, you got to set appointments, you got to run the appointment and build trust and rapport. You have to identify their needs. You have to focus on them and their needs. Then once you have their needs down and you know why they want to buy what they're wanting to buy, you need to be able to share the benefits of them with them of why they should buy from you. Once you get them to that point, they're in what's called the sweet spot, the top 25% of this mountain, and that's where you close. Closing is actually the easiest part of the whole sales process, but it's separate from actual sales. Sales is a process, a system that you follow. Closing is an art and a skill that you need to learn. Okay. But once you share the benefits, you're about 75% of the way of closing that deal. But you got to learn how to elegantly dance with the prospect when you close, and they're going to give you have done a great job if they give you only one or two objections. If they give you 15 to 20 objections, then you didn't do a good job of closing the doors on those objections on the way up this mountain. Some things, the reason these are asterisks is some sales require qualifications. So you can drop qualifications somewhere in this process. And then at any point in this process, you can ask for referrals. This is a basic sales process. Follow-up is where they don't make a decision and you need to follow up. I have made more money in the follow-up process than any other way. Okay? So I do it when I do public speaking or whatever, but this is a basic sales process. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into detail about every single one of these steps. What I am going to do, if you're listening to the recording, is for 2.5 years, I worked with a U.S. Small Business Administration, and I taught sales nationwide to small business owners. And I recorded it because that was the agreement. It's my content. And I put it on Dropbox, and I will gladly give it to you for free, and you can run with it. Okay? You just send me your name and email address to 916-741-0596. 916-741-0596, your name and your email address so I can add you to the Dropbox folder. Okay? But this is a basic sales process. So if you can't get yourself, if you're resistant to make a phone call, follow up, things like that, you're going to run into a wall at some point in your business. Last story, and I'm going to have a dialogue here with my buddy Alan. I've been working with a client for 2 years. They, quote unquote, have 2 salespeople on staff, which are not salespeople. I told him that within the first 30 days. These guys are not salespeople. They're glorified order takers. Okay? And the reason they're glorified order takers, because they said, hey, how many outstanding proposals do you have right now? We have 67 outstanding proposals. Okay? Why don't you pick up the phone, call the person up, and say, hey, I know you're going to buy this product because everybody that contacts us buys the products, but they have to wait till the home is built. And so why don't you pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, why don't you put a deposit down on it today so we can make sure the materials are ordered, and that way when you do need it, we can build it relatively quickly. And the 2 salespeople that have been there, one had been there for 18 years, one had been there for 9 years, says, we don't do that here. That's not how we do business. When they're ready to buy, John, they call us. Okay? And that's how it works here. That's how it's always worked since 1972 when we started. Okay? People come to us, we don't go to them. Okay. And I said, dude, go get me 10 of those folders off the stack there. I'll personally call them and I'll close half of them and get money in the door today. Because at the time they were furloughing people 1 day a week because the sales were behind. That person who was the quote unquote sales manager said, You're a slick talking snake oil salesman. This will never work in our business and you suck. And he got up and stormed out of the meeting. Kid you not. Yeah. And I kept telling the owner, this is what you have to do if you want to scale your business. Okay. So we went to work on a bunch of other stuff. Well, lo and behold, guess who was right? John Pyron. Okay. Because I finally got him to agree to let me train one of their other people to be in sales. And I said, hey, I want you to go and grab all the folders of all the sales that didn't close. And I kid you not, he comes in, he goes, we have 255 dark file, what they're calling dark files, right? It's the secret files, right? It's the ones that didn't close, right? And so I said, hey, here's what we need to do. Let's call them all up and say, hey, you were interested in purchasing this product and you said you wanted it. What happened? Some of them said that we changed our mind. We decided not to purchase that. Opportunity. Okay. Opportunity because, hey, 6 people out of 18 conversations in one day. Now this was 2 days. Out of 18 conversations, 6 people said, we decided not to buy after all. Well, now it's an opportunity. Now it's like, hey, well, you contacted us. What led you to even want to quote? What even led you to want this product in the first place? Well, we wanted this, we wanted this, we wanted this, and now you're going to re-energize them. And guess what? When he did that, 3 of them said, I want to quote again. Okay? One other person said, you know what? I'm glad you followed up. I'm ready to buy that. Can you send me an updated quote? Another person said, you know what? Don't cancel the quote because we're almost done with the construction phase and we're going to buy. Now, that's just 18 conversations. And was it 6, 7, 8? So 10 voicemails were left. But it goes to show you, you know what? If you don't follow up on your opportunities, you can't make the money. It's as simple as that. And so if you take nothing more than anything, the tip of the month this month is every single quote that you put out this year in 2021, every single buddy that said no, they went dark on you, they stopped returning your call, they ran an appointment with you and they didn't buy. I want you to treat every single one of them as brand new prospects going into the month of December. And I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to call every single one of them. Hey, just checking in with you. Wanted to check in. We talked back in February. You said you were interested, but the timing probably wasn't right. I'm just curious. Why didn't you buy back then? What needs to happen for you to do it now? Has your needs changed? How can I help you now? And you'll be amazed. You'll blow up your December. Absolutely blow up your December. Okay? So that's my tip for today. Alan, what's going on, man? What feedback do you got?
A lot, but just high points. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's all about persistency and consistency. Combine those two things together. At the same time, on occasion, getting the right person to either collaborate in the sales process or lead the sales process can make all the difference in the world. And it depends on the scenario. And some of that comes with experience. I had a situation today. I had a lead with a prospect who basically said, called us up and said, hey, all our computers are running very slow. And I went out to this, it's a home builder. They have about 6 primary machines. They're all the same. They're all nice looking. They're white Dell all-in-ones. And the hardware specs are all great, except for one thing. They've got old-fashioned spinning hard drives. And for those of you that don't know, that's a 30-year-old technology, and a lot of times manufacturers put them in computers so that they can make more margin on those computers. And the computers perform abysmally. I sat down, took a look for about 2 minutes, and I made a point to myself. I don't want to come across as the know-it-all, IT guy, but I couldn't help but kind of smile. And I said, I know exactly what's going on. I said, it's not a software problem. It's not your network. It's not this. You bought these computers. You didn't know any better. They have this one bottleneck that is causing all of them to act this way. And there's 2 ways to go here. We can replace them all, or we can clone these really bad quality drives to what's called solid state drive. And I ran the numbers for them real quick. And they looked at me like, done, do it. Just do it. That's it. And so we, got a quick verbal that, they were very, very tickled that a professional could come in and know right out of the gate what their pain point was, what was causing it, and how to solve it, and give them numbers immediately. Now, that's not always the case. That's one of those things where it's wonderful because you've got someone with a skill set going in, and the problem, and the sale kind of performs itself, but when you've got colder leads, or you have somebody that doesn't understand the value of what you do, or maybe they're on the fence, maybe their mindset's not right. John, I heard something yesterday that is so applicable to this. And it hit me, my gosh, I can use this in sales going forward. But it was a post on Twitter by somebody that I follow pretty close. And basically it's the things that you do or touch every day that are important to you. That's where you need to spend some more money. And is it like, basically, if you deliver food or you're an Uber driver, you need to have a decent car. Up your game, get a quality car that will last and is dependable. Everybody sleeps. Get yourself a good bed, get yourself a good mattress, good box spring, spend money on that. Well, in a business, like with what my company does, it's technology support. So, we encounter many times people that are approaching this with a 20-year-old mentality. 20 years ago, having the computers and having the networks was kind of still a novelty in the small and medium business market. Well, now it's the backbone, unless it's a very rare exception, the businesses are counting on all this stuff to work, all this stuff to hum, to be secure to run, but they haven't changed their mindset from 20 years ago because they haven't been thinking about it properly. So one thing that I'm going to be doing, going forward, is when I go into a prospect is taking a look, didn't have to do it today, but taking a look and seeing how things have been done and say, basically, this is obviously very mission critical to you. Like with a church that came to us because they couldn't stream last Sunday. They're having problems. Went in there and they've never had professional management. It's always been volunteers throwing things into the mix. It's a train wreck. It's just a potluck spaghetti dinner. Nobody knows who put what in there. And is it basically, if you want it to work, here's how. It's a solution driven process. It's a business case. In my case, it's not about the technology. It's how do we solve your problem? How do we get you to where you want to be? How do we address why you called us in the first place? And if you can get that credibility early, then a lot of that sales mountain becomes a whole lot less steep.
Yep. I mean, every time, and really it's when I became a business owner with employees, right? So there's a lot of solo entrepreneurs out there that never actually hired an employee, right? Everything, I know you would agree with this, is everything changes mentally the moment you take on your first employee. because you're now responsible for somebody else's livelihood. And you don't have no choice but to pay them before you get paid, right? And it's a whole different stress level, it's a whole different mindset, it's a whole different deal. And so what changed in my sales game at that time is I literally, like, in my opinion, until you've covered a payroll, you're really not a business owner. You're an employee that owns your job, you know. And if that's something that's offensive to some of you, then, you know, good. I'm glad. I hope it pisses you off, because you're probably the type of business owner that nobody can do it better than you. Nobody can take care of the customer better than you, and everything centers around you. And you don't want to hire somebody because you don't want to lose control. And guess what? It's fine. You know, I mean, I've seen people go throughout their entire life like that, and they retire, but you never have freedom. You never are able to take a vacation. You know, if something happens to you, it's done. It's over. Yeah. The only way to really scale a business is through employees, and that's a sales job all in itself. Okay. But at the end of the day, it changes your mindset. It changes your process. When you deal with the prospect from that point forward, it's a different conversation. It's exactly what you just said. It's like, I'm not focused on technology. I'm not focused on this. It's like, dude, I know you got a problem. Tell me what the problem is. You know, how can I help you solve the problem? You know, and it's just that mindset shift as a business owner. Once you get to the point where you're responsible for somebody else's livelihood, your attitude changes. It's like, hey, you know, you own a business, right? Yeah. You got some employees? Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about the biggest problem you have. You know, help me solve it. I have a network of people that I can help solve whatever business problem you have. We could talk about my technology company. We could talk about my consulting company. We could talk about, you know, my forest company, my tiddlywinks company, whatever it is your company is. We could talk about that later, but let me solve your problem first. Once I solve the problem, guess what they're going to be open to? They're going to be open to anything you want to talk to them about, because every single business owner on this planet has a problem that they're looking to solve. We get paid as business owners, as businesses, in direct proportion to the problems that we solve. Yeah. And so, you know, I hear you, man. It's like, I love having customers that they will openly share what their problems and challenges are, and then I can help them solve those problems. I'm not focused on the money. I'm not focused on any of that stuff. I already know. I will be compensated in direct proportion to the business problem that I solve. And it's never failed me. And so that's sales 101. And it's not this slick, fast talking, you know, manipulation. Selling equals service. It really does. Sell from honesty, integrity, and compassion. Selling is about leading. It's about moving people to action. That's sales. You know, I could train anybody to manipulate somebody. It's not that complicated. But if you want a long-term relationship, like your business is a long-term relationship business, you know, and if you don't deal with them in that manner, you know, they'll eventually find out. So, but the reason you've been successful for going on 20, you're going to celebrate 25 years this coming year.
24.
So
24 in February.
Oh, I thought it was 24 this year. Okay, so it's 24 next year. Well, I'm going to come out there on your 25th, man. So, you know,
you just want to go to Martin's barbecue.
Hey, well, you know, after the last time, no, I probably don't want to go there. Actually, it was a satellite location. It's not the main one. Whoever the pit master is at the other one is perfect. So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the things. Sales in its basic form is simply this: you have a customer, they have a problem, or they have a want, need, or desire. You ask them a bunch of questions. You get to know them. And the first rule is, do you like them? If you don't like them, don't take them on as a customer. I'm telling you, man, you will regret it. You know, don't take them on as a customer. Make sure you like them first, and then as a natural human being, just get to know them and what it is that they need you to help them with.
Yeah.
And whatever problem they present you, if you can't solve it, help them solve it through somebody else in your network. Once you do that, they'll sit down with you and talk to you about your problem, about your services. And so in your case, you're a client of mine. It's like going into December. December is one of the biggest purchase months in technology. It's like I would go back and look at every single client you've had this year.
Mm-hmm.
Every single prospect that you've had this year. Call them up. Have Gracie call them up. Have Cheryl call them up. Tee up appointments. And even if you have to bring on somebody temporarily to help you handle tickets and stuff, you can crush it in December. But it's just picking up the phone and calling and contacting. And it's a contact sport. It's like this guy that I'm mentoring for. I'm training him in sales in this company, and after 2 weeks, I finally said, "Oh, I forgot. We got to track your activity. Totally forgot about that principle in sales. It's been so long since I've had to do it, but you're brand new. I don't even know what your close ratio is. And if I don't track your numbers, I can't tell you. I can't even coach you." So okay, we're going to create a spreadsheet. You're going to contact how many dials you make, how many conversations you get into, how many appointments you run, how many sales that you make. That's the only 3 or 4 things that we're going to track. And then at the end of a 90-day cycle, I'm going to be able to do some math and crunch some numbers and tell you exactly how many calls you need to make on a daily basis to get X amount of appointments, to present X amount of proposals, to close X amount of deals. Mm-hmm. It's a mathematical certainty. And, I hated that crap when I was, actively in sales. That's why I wanted to create systems that constantly feed me business so I don't have to go out and track all that crap. But that's me. But a brand new salesperson or somebody, if you really want a predictable result in your business, just track your activity. And at the end of the day, the numbers shake out. The only thing that we ever have control of is how many contacts we make. That's it.
Yeah.
We don't have any control over whether the person meets with us, whether they read our proposal, whether they buy, whether they, we don't have any control over that. Dave Vanny, my mentor, taught me sales, still makes over $700,000 a year. And he laughs at me. He's like, he got a little flip phone. He doesn't even know how to turn on a computer. But I shit you not, he cannot turn on a computer. And he's like, you guys and all your sales fancy stuff. And he whips out a literal yellow notepad, a legal yellow notepad. Okay. And all he does is he writes 32 days at the top of the page. That's all he does. Okay. Then he goes contacts, appointments ran, sales. He numbers it 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 32. And it looks like this. He showed me boxes of these. He goes, here's my CRM, by the way. Here's my sales tracker, John, because you're such a fancy guy. Right? He says, all I do is I go to day one and I go, how many contacts, how many conversations did I have with somebody? How many appointments did I run? And how many sales did I make that day? And if the number is 0, I put 0. And lo and behold, at the end of 30 days, I have, I'm just going to pull a number out of my butt. I have 125,000 in sales, and I have, 38 appointments ran, and I had a conversation with 220 people. Let's just say those are the numbers. And he says it's very simple. You know what motivates me, John, is this. I take out my calculator, and he didn't pull out his smartphone. He pulled out his old, little Casio calculator. He goes, let me show you how I do this, man, because I know this is complicated for you sophisticated salespeople. He goes, I take $125,000 and I divide it by 38 appointments. And I get 3,000 and this is just my numbers, $3,289 per appointment ran. I didn't say closed, but per appointment ran. Okay. He goes, then I go, okay, $125,000 divided by 220 conversations to set those appointments. Each conversation was worth $568. Okay. And he goes, that's my numbers. And he goes, let me show you this. He whips out this banker's box and he pulls out stacks of these things. He goes, yeah, look at this. He goes, oh man, this cycle, this 32-day cycle was brutal, dude. Look at this. I went 12 days, man, without making a single sale. He goes, did you think I thought of quitting? Yeah. Do you think I thought my sales process was screwed up? Yeah. He goes, but I've been doing this for 45 years, so I know, no. I need to stick to my game plan of making the contacts. And he goes, you know what? Here, check this out. Look at what happened. Look at what happened on day 13, dude. I closed the deal there. And I added all the numbers up, and guess what? The numbers shook out. I made the same amount, if not a little bit more than I made the last 32-day cycle. He says, I have no control. He says, I think it's God's sense of humor to make sure that I really want what I want. You know? And he goes, at the end of the day, I call that being in the desert. It's where the honing comes in. It's where the personal growth comes in. It's where I get sharpened because I really want to quit, and I think there's something wrong with me, and I think there's something wrong with my product. And if I didn't have all the experience that I had, I would literally change courses. But I'm glad that I've been through the fire long enough to know, don't do it. Only do the thing I can control, which is contacting people. The numbers will shake out. That's the reason I chose 32-day cycles versus a 90-day cycle. And I swear to God, dude, and it's as simple as that. And so, you know, it's a lesson for me. It's a lesson for you. It's like we're in December. You guys, any of you listening to the recording, if you haven't been consistent with this, give yourself a clean slate. Draw a line. Can't go back and change the past. Say from this moment forward, I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to change the direction of my business. You're going to be amazed at the results. So anyways, great conversation, man. So let me stop